So just about to leave the house to go take the 3000 GT door over to the PDR guy so he can pop those dents. Right, so over here at the Hale repair place, have the door. I marked all those spots yesterday, and now hopefully you can get this done in like a day or two. Just gave the PDR guy the door. He said either later today or early tomorrow, so you know that's quick enough for me. And hopefully you can get all those dents pretty much out, and then I'll just put a little bit of icing in. I'm sure I'll have to use a little bit of icing, but at least it won't be a lot of filler. Coming over to Dodge right here, I want to look at the actual dashes from the Hellcat. I think they have one. I know they have a Demon here to the, you know, one of these SXTs or whatever they call it, to make sure they're the same, because I'm probably gonna buy a SXT so I can get all the interior out of it. So I'm gonna check out this one to make sure that pretty much I need the interior, so the dash and like pretty much all the airbags. All right, so I gotta check out that white one right there, and looks like the dashes are the same and most of the interior other than the seats and some random stuff, but that's gonna be good that I can use the airbags and stuff out of a car like that for mine. So what I was planning on doing yesterday was pulling the wiring harness, but I ended up not having enough time. So today I'm gonna pull the wiring harness out. What I need to do is pull the bumper off, pull the fenders, and then I can get the whole harness out of the car so I could bypass that issue with the headlight over here. Something else I'm gonna do is add grounds on both sides. I had this feeling that I probably should have done it when I was doing the wiring, but I just kind of ignored that feeling, which I probably shouldn't have, and you know, now we're here, I'm adding a ground to it. So add a ground to that on both sides should solve my weird, it seems like I'm getting feedback when the turn signals are on through the running lights. It kind of is flashing the running lights as well a little bit, or they're dimming. So you know, something with the grounds. It's just getting some feedback. Just had to pull the front bumper a little bit forward. I got the fenders off, and now all I need to do is pretty much get all the wiring undone. I use new Nissan, well, not new, I went to the Junkyard, got a bunch of these clips a long time ago, and when I redo the harness, I will, you know, have this covered in some kind of shielding and everything. I need to get the LS mounted in there. I do have the new kit, so all I should have to do is bolt the mounts on. I may have to machine the mounts down a little bit, because how I did this was I got the tranny and everything in without actually bashing the trans tunnel. And how I did that was I pretty much have the tranny directly bolted to the cross member, and that lowered the engine just a little bit. I mean, there's still plenty of room for the oil pan in the steering rack. It just lowered it a lot, you know, down a lot more than it would have been with that. I mean, it's like a 20 mil poly bushing, something like that, maybe 20 or 30 mil. But other than that, just need to kind of get this thing together. It's kind of, it would be a really dope car once it's painted and everything. I'm running AC. You can see I have a brand new Nissan condenser up there. I have this, you know, this radiator. I'm probably going to replace it because it's just a single pass. I'll probably go for an end flow on that, and kind of work my way around getting this thing kind of buttoned up. I need to put the bracket I made for the alternator. One thing I really hate is the crimp terminals, so I pretty much just always solder them and then shrink wrap them, so it kind of looks a lot better. Now I could bolt this over here, and I'm going to bolt it to that little spot right there, and then connect it into the grounds up here. And then I shouldn't have any pulsating issues with the when the turn signals are on, pulsating through the running lights. This side is now finished, have the ground added, and it goes into the harness. Like I said, this isn't sheathed, so I just had it come up here, and all I had was two grounds, thin grounds going into the car. Finish the grounds on both sides. Now I shouldn't have to worry about it backfeeding through the ground circuit. So I just went down, grabbed the engine mounts. I'm going to put them on, see how much I need to take out of the poly. I'm pretty sure that it's 20 or 30 mil. As you can see, just finished bolting both engine mounts to the block, and I need to go quite a bit smaller with, I kind of want to run poly on the engine just so it isn't so harsh. And you can see that down here, yeah, it's around probably 20-25 mil I need to pull out of that to get it to work. The mounts are finally installed on the engine and they look great. I'm glad I finally, put them on. I've had them for about a year. I had to buy another swap kit because the first one, the original one I bought, was for an S14. I got the wrong kit, I guess. So this is, the S13 kit. If you don't know it, S14 subframes are a different angle. I'm pretty sure S13s are 45 degree, S13s are like 37 or something like that. Not exactly sure about S14s because I haven't really messed with them much, but I'm pretty dead on that the S13 subframe is a 45V on the engine mounts down there. So all I need to do is make a little poly bushing to go in between the engine and the subframe. Also, if you don't know and you haven't been with my channel long, I don't like to really tear stuff up or cut or bash stuff in that doesn't need to be bashed. So the trans tunnel on this is completely stock, not touched. It has a, the LS1 has a T56 and it is untouched. So the T56 is in there without bashing or cutting the trans tunnel. And that's kind of how I am. I'll make a project take longer to do it correctly instead of, trying to put an LS1 in something and pretty much bashing it in and cutting it up. If it doesn't really need to be, it doesn't need to be done. So other than that, I'm going to finish, I'm going to test this wiring harness and make sure it doesn't do the dimming. I'll plug in a headlight, a marker, and a side marker, turn on the headlights and the turn signals and make sure it doesn't pulsate. I added that ground earlier and that's should have been what the problem was. I'm pretty sure it was just, back feeding through the ground. So yeah, this thing definitely is going to be a nasty car once it's done on the street. And it is pretty dusty, so don't be too critical about how dirty the engine is. I did buy this thing for really cheap out of a 90,000 mile car. Never heard it run, so crossing my fingers, maybe 5 years later I'll actually start this thing. And well, it's already been 5 years, so hopefully I start soon and it doesn't have a rod knock or something crazy. Pulled it apart before the valve covers, and I did front and rear main seals. The wiring harness is finally out. The only reason I really pulled it was to troubleshoot the headlight on the passenger side, that the high beam stayed on all the time whenever the lights were on. So that was an issue. I wanted to resolve it because I didn't want a headlight always on. So there's probably just a crossed wire somewhere on the passenger side. Going to fix that. I also am going to pretty much hook this thing up out of the car and make sure everything functions as it should. And I'm going to clean up these fuses and relays out of the car. It'll be a lot easier to do that. So other than that, I should be able to complete this pretty quick. Most of the hard work is already done. The climate control works. I'm pretty sure the power mirrors will work. These are power mirrors. I need to still swap the bases because the right-hand drive and left-hand drive bases, if you have right-hand drive bases or vice versa on the wrong car, you can't see out of the mirrors that well. So I just need to swap the bases, and I do like that it's gonna have power mirrors. I do like that, all the lights and everything are gonna be wired up correctly. So I'm going to take this harness, lay it out, and pretty much connect everything to it. Headlights, I have those 50-50 tails up there. I'll connect to it, side markers, everything. Just like it would be in the car, I'll lay it out, and then I could pretty much go around with the power probe, figure out why that, that circuit for the passenger side headlight has a random source of power, which is causing me an issue. So pretty much I need to do that. Also, this is another harness out of a different 240, that $200 240 that I bought a while ago. I grabbed that just in case. I need to figure out some of the power supply routing, but I think I have everything pretty much handled. A few things I want to trace back and make sure that it's good. The brake lights I thought were not functioning correctly. It's just the switch. So I'm gonna go lay this thing out. This is what I pretty much meant when I said I was gonna lay the harness out, to figure out the random issues I was having with it. Tail lights are connected. I still need to put bulbs in the side markers and the running lights for the license plate lights. The door switches are connected. I need to connect the dome light harness and a dome light for the center. I need to also connect, that goes to the trunk light right there. I need to connect that. These are speaker wires. Those are ran directly to the stereo, so I don't have to worry about those. This wiring right here is for, I relocated the washer reservoir into the trunk. So that's what that's for, is for the pump power. This harness right here is for power folding mirrors, mirror switches, cigarette lighter, e-brake light. Also up here is just a bunch of stuff. I connected the gauge cluster, the digital climate control, the window. I think that's a power amp. Harness and module. Over here I have the switches. I still need to connect the the ignition switch, the windshield wipers, headlight switch, gauge clusters connected, and headlights, marker lights, turn signals up there. So there is a few things I need to connect. Pretty much that is the harness. Right here, these wires right here, this goes into the engine bay. So the wires right here, these go into the engine bay. Yellow wires are for the speed sensor, and the green wire I think is for the AC compressor. I'd have to check though, but that is where I'm just going to bundle the wires. This wire right there is for the starter signal. It comes for the ignition switch. The relay, I heard that click when I powered everything up, so I shouldn't have to worry about that. That comes directly from the ignition switch as well. I bypassed the Canadian wiring diagram. Doesn't have that little that relay resistor box that bolts up here by the headlight and everything. But you can definitely tell there is a lot less wires. Like I said before, these harnesses run on the top rails of by the fenders. You don't see any of the harness, and that's nice. I have this flipped right now, and it goes back over here, but it's easier to get to and access right there. I do know the digital climate control works. I need to connect a blower motor, make sure all that stuff's gonna work. Those are glove box lights. Just pretty much the whole 240 harness, and I cleaned it up. This is pretty much what Nissan should have done, and they would have saved probably billions of dollars throughout the years. This catastrophe right here is powers, fuses, and relays. Pretty much that's why I pulled the harness out, was to clean that up. It's kind of in a crappy spot in the car, hard to access. So it being out of the car like that, I could just kind of sit there on a pillow, clean all that up. That is the location that it needs to be in. Eventually I'll make my own fuse box, but for now I'll just use, I may end up reusing the original one and just kind of bunching the relays and everything really close to it, so it kind of looks nice and fits there, and I could still access the fuses and relays through that little access door. That's what I really want to be able to do. So if you know 240s, you're gonna be like, man, this is an improvement, especially if you know the wiring. I mean, definitely there is a lot less. It is routed a lot better. Usually the 240 harness wraps around a few times. The harness usually runs on the driver's side. I moved it to the passenger side just because it was more efficient that way, and then I pretty much ran both of the headlight harnesses individually. The stock, and also up there is the ambient air temp sensor for the outside, the horns, and the AC dryer pressure switch is right by that headlight. So all that stuff will be tucked as well. I'm gonna have AC in the car. That is the end of this video. I hope you like the 240 project. It has come a long way. It has a long way to go. I do usually end up overcomplicating my projects. I have this, this I don't know what to call it, but I overcomplicate them. I don't like things that, you know, look bad or, you know, don't work correctly or, you know, could be improved. But you know, if you like the videos, give it a thumbs up, comment below, subscribe. See you in the next episode.